I grew up in Malaysia where Hari Raya is celebrated across the country. Now that I live in Singapore, it is pretty much the same, but of course with the COVID, this is not quite possible. I still want to wish my Muslim friends Selamat Hari Raya Idul Fitri. Ketupat is this rice cake which is packed inside a woven palm leaf pouch, usually wove in the shape of a diamond-shaped container. For simplicity's sake, I'm gonna just draw one of these, as I intend to make this a tutorial for beginners. You can look at all the myriads of ketupat. I'll link the reference photograph here from Flickr. You can take a look at the way the shape of the ketupat usually is done. I'm just taking one of them and I'm making generic shape out of it. I pretend that there is some kind of shadows at the bottom to make the ketupat float in the air somewhat, or at least more three-dimensional. And I'll talk about how we make shadows and the colors we use and so on and so forth, all in a very simple and generic manner. At the moment, keep the drawing broad and enough to cover most of the sketchbook. Once you've finished drawing the ketupat, I use green gold to start, and I intend to just fully cover the whole in one go to lay the first layer or the first foundation painting of the ketupat. And of course, to make it 3D, we'll have to layer the watercolor, which is the way essentially you paint watercolor anyway. So I use a round sable, I think number 5 or 6, not a very big one, and I basically stain the entire ketupat in a very loose and careless almost way across the entire ketupat itself. There's actually really no need to be careful. It's okay to paint over the line and inside the line with whites between pencil and the paint. When we were very young, we were taught that we have to color inside the line. I think that does a lot more damage to our artistic sense than anything else. We should just learn to make mistakes and paint with a bit of a careless attitude in some ways, unless you want to be a very careful artist. There are lots of artists who likes that. Just to make it a bit more interesting and playful, I spritzer or spray some water to make the water, the paint spread outside the line, if you like. And in that sense, it forces me to think a little bit more loosely and carelessly, in quote. Once you're done with this, I leave it to dry a little bit, and I go in with a combination of French ultramarine and permanent alizarin crimson, making a rich purple. That is a complementary color against the yellow-green, if you like. Very nice complementary, in fact, which allows us to create the color scheme of yellow-purple, not quite exact, but close enough. And at this point, I'm trying to soften the shadow, the edges of the shapes that constitute the shadow. I basically wash away the edges, if you like, with clear water and take away the excess moisture. Nothing complicated so far. Everything is simple, straightforward. And with the same mixture of shadow color, I go in to create a sense of depth where you can see the woven palm leaf has some kind of at the edges, there are certainly a little bit more shadows. And just to indicate that, I create a bit more shadow, a little bit more soft, dented shadow as well on the ketupat itself, just to give you a feel of three-dimensional, a sense of three-dimensional sense to the ketupat. Again, it's all just playing. It's just using texturing and creating dirt on the ketupat. Nothing that is completely plain and single color, and in a way it is flat across, will be aesthetically pleasing. So I try to create a bit of dirt, a bit of play, a bit of realism by creating some texture on the ketupat. At this point, just continue to make more texturing, more three-dimensional shadow sense, if you like, all by looking at some of the references and making it up as I go. Now I'm just trying to create some finishing touches while I wait for the paint to dry, put my name and a date. This was done on the eve of Eid, the actual celebration day itself, which is a big day for the Muslim community around the world. Now this is where the real lesson comes in. If you look at this painting and sketch, it is nothing wrong per se, but it is way too cool. So I need to warm it up. And when you have a green color sketch, a greenish yellow if you like, the simplest way to warm it up is to throw in some brown. And in this case, I'm using a combination of quinacridone gold with a touch of quinacridone burnt orange, both Daniel Smith color. And by glazing or just putting an extra layer of that color, indicating a bit of a shadow, a little bit of a cast shadow, it creates a certain amount of warmth to a very, very cool and cold sketch, which was just a little bit too cold for my liking. And when I saw that, the way I edit it, I'm just throwing it a bit warm. So just remember this, you can always edit your sketch just like this. So that's it. That's the lesson for today, and I hope you enjoyed this video in the longer form because I've already posted a short on this. And blessed Eid to those who celebrate. Take care and stay safe wherever you are.